These guys. And we got finished with these guys. Howdy, Ethan. Welcome, sir. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Good. How's 9 weeks testing stuff going?
Busy. Had time to write for English today. Don't know how that went. English is not my strong suit.
What did you have to write about? I'm going to get the recording started again. There we go. All right. All right, Team Ellington, getting yours pulled up right now. Yours actually came and downloaded to me as a PDF, which isn't a problem, but it's just going to look slightly different than the other presentations that are showing up as PowerPoints or Google Slides. But again, it's
I shared it to you through Google. I just turned it in as a PDF too, just so you know that I turned it in.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let me pull up the Google form then. Somehow I missed that. There it is. Sure enough. Thanks, Dylan, for reminding me of that. I somehow didn't see that in the millions of emails I get every day. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. Well, let's share my screen. Forgot to do that crucial step. We're good to go. All right, Team Ellington. Is there anything I can do for you guys before we get started? Are you able to see the screen and everything like that? Okay, fantastic. And again, just let me know, team, as you're ready to go to the next slide, and I will do that for you. I'm going to get myself set up to take copious notes as you go. All right, the floor is all yours.
Next slide, please.
You got it.
So in our group, our first question that we discussed was why the art's important. So we pretty much just talked about how art is important because it helps with expression, mental health, communication, and it's in general just a good form of entertainment. In this picture, you can see a dancer, and like for me personally, I understand that dance is a great way to like express yourself and to let your feelings out and to de-stress. And the caption says that the article this was taken from says dancing can treat depression and other brain diseases. And for me, that just makes a lot of sense because when you dance, it's like when you draw, when you write, when you talk, you're letting out whatever you're feeling and you're thinking, and like all of your stress is just like let go. Next slide, please.
Got it.
So like I was saying before in our discussion, we talked about how art allows an individual to express how they're feeling. This quote says, "The principles of true art is not to portray, but to evoke," which is by Jerzy Kosinski, which basically means that art is used to let out and like evoke emotion and feeling. And art is used to like tell people like, hey, I'm sad. Hey, I'm angry. Using art is like a great way to express how you're feeling when it's hard for you to communicate. For me personally, and for people that I know, like if we're going through something, it's maybe something where it's too hard to talk about. So you write something or you sing or I'll dance or you'll draw something that shows your emotion. Like if you're angry, you might paint something with red, or if you're sad, you might paint something with blue or something like that. When you can't talk about your feelings, people will paint, draw, sing, dance to let their feelings out and not keep things bottled in, so that they're in a way communicating with the people around them instead of maybe keeping stuff inside and then like exploding later with so many emotions that they just couldn't handle. So this ties into how expression through art helps with mental health, because if you're depressed, then maybe you aren't finding a good way to express your emotions. And so if you find a way through art to do that, then you can help clear out your emotion and like your depression feelings. Next slide. We also talked about, moving on, that art is important because it's a solid form of entertainment, and that yes, it may be a way for you to express feelings usually seen as like sad or darker feelings, but art in like general can bring joy and like thrill depending on what you're looking at, pleasure for some people, and the ability to get thoughts and ideas across, which is something we'll talk about later in the presentation. But yeah, next slide.
So the next question we just discussed in our group was how our conclusions, outcomes, and finished products were reached in the art. The way we discussed this, we kind of tried to group our answers into different categories. So ultimately, when a piece of art is finished or the artist believes it's finished, it kind of depends on the purpose that the artist has for it. First, if it's expression, the artist might finish their art piece, whether it be dance, a song, a painting, a poem, whatever it is. Once they feel that they've been able to express their emotions, that they've let go what has been holding on to them and like nagging at them, weighing on their chest or whatnot, or whatever expression it is, or maybe they're very happy and they want to let that out and make other people happy. So that was our first category. The next one is kind of a category that presents separate sides. So public art, artists sometimes have high ambitions for their artwork. Maybe they want it to be in a museum. They want it to be seen by the public. They want to display their talent, or even they want to show a emotion, an idea, a belief in their art. So maybe they want it to go public. In that case, they might finish it once they think that it is the best that they can make it, that there's no more to be done. And this also is definitely influenced by second opinions of other people. If they get second opinions from the public or from their friends, from their colleagues, they might keep on working on it. Whereas if it was private art, something for themselves, they might stop when they personally think it's done. This is kind of shown in the quote below from Georgia O'Keeffe. She said, "Whether you succeed or not is irrelevant. There's no such thing. Making your unknown known is the most important thing." So she kind of is trying to refute this idea of letting other people tell you whether your art is good or not. She's kind of saying that as long as you use art to express yourself how you want to express yourself, that's the most important thing. You don't need to have your art succeed. And then lastly, this is kind of a different instance that we thought of, but if you're a professional artist and you're doing an art piece for a customer, you would finish once you've met all the requirements, all the suggestions of the customer and everything that they want so that you can get paid. This kind of also feeds into public art. Sometimes, for example, like Michelangelo painting the Vatican Chapel, he might have had to fulfill certain requirements in his painting, make it look so good, whereas it might have not been what he personally wanted to do. Next slide, please.
Okay, so our next question, or like was kind of two questions, are what are the key moments in the developments of art over time, and what are the revolutions in technique or philosophy? So right here is the School of Athens, a painting by Raphael. Our group thought it was a very good representation to the answer of this question because it was painted during a very key moment of art in the time of the Renaissance, and it demonstrates new and old techniques of the time, such as vanishing points and fresco painting, and it like shows philosophies regarding religion and secularism, which made a big impact in development over art over time. Next slide. So key moments, this question, as part of the question was our discussion was more fact-based. So like we said, that Renaissance, like we said before, like I said in the last slide, was a key moment of the development of arts because it was a rebirth of the way people thought. And so their forms of art and literature and music performance had new meaning. There was also the Baroque period, which encouraged art because of religious reasons regarding Catholics and Protestants. So you see more of that religious art coming in. There's also the Romantic period in Europe, which is another movement of the arts and literature, which stressed individualism and realism. So like from those three, you can see that Europe throughout history has been a center for the arts. More modern times in America, there's Cubism, which started by Pablo Picasso. He had a great influence on the teaching of art in modern times. And there's also the Harlem Renaissance, which saw an artistic explosion of new forms of art, of music, and usually centered around the expressions of African Americans. And one thought that we had, which is pretty interesting, is that technology over time had kind of taken away some of the meaning of original art, because particularly visual art, and that visual art was originally created to depict scenes and people because they had no other way of doing it. But now that we have technology and modernization, like it kind of took away that meaning, that aspect of it. However, technology and modernization is not exactly all the way negative, but it has also positively influenced art, providing a variety of platforms for people to express their art. Next slide.
So the revolutions in technique and philosophy are during the Renaissance. One big new thing that they did is they started using oil-based paints, which had more pigment and they had better contrast, which improved a lot of artwork. And before, they had fresco painting as a technique, in that they would just use plaster to paint on like walls and ceilings, and it was not as good quality. And there's also humanism during the Renaissance, which revives belief in the beauty of the human body. So that changed the different philosophies of art, because before then, people viewed the human body as the den of sin. So there's not much art about the human body. And there's also the selling of art, which led to a need for appeal from others instead of the artist's idea of beauty. So they would try to do what they thought other people thought was beautiful to sell their painting, or if it was a play or a performance, try to sell tickets. So that really applies to all forms of art. And there's a new popularity in secular art, which is like art about religion, which we learn a lot about that in AP European history, about the new Catholic and Protestant reformations, and it became a lot popular. And the teaching of art to many people, such as the teaching of Bob Ross, which I'm sure we all know. And this is a quote from him: "We don't make mistakes, we just have happy accidents," which is a new good technique that is used in art. So you can do things such as turning a smudge into a tree or something. So yeah, that's the end of our presentation.
All right, let's give them a silent round of applause. Well done, Team Ellington. I appreciate your efforts there. Everybody loves Bob Ross. My daughter has a Bob Ross bobblehead, I believe, somewhere in her bedroom. Very good. All right, excellent. I'll give you a moment, if you're one of the reviewers, to take a second and jot down your thoughts on Ellington's presentation, what they did well, what could have been improved. And as you do that, I will pull up our next group, which is, we're gonna actually, I think, yeah, we're gonna, if it's all right, we're going to rearrange our order a little bit. Elias is absent today, wasn't feeling well, and contacted me earlier, and he didn't want to leave his team in the lurch. So we will bring up Team Angelou next and see if we can buy Duchamp some time for their whole team to be present for the presentation. So. Here it comes. slowly, but it's coming. Yay. All right. Here we go, team. Before we get started, is there anything I can do to assist you, or are y'all ready to go?
I have some embedded videos and I'm worried about doing it in this format. Should I just share the Google slide with you? Would that be better?
Yeah, you want to see if, let me just see if it works real quick. Are they embedded in like one of these photos, or is it?
No, it's the upper one. Yeah, you pass it right there. Yeah, both of those should be videos. I'll share it with you.
Yeah, why don't you do that real quick? Should be getting a notification to my inbox, but I'll check here as well.
It's been sent.
All right. There it is. All right, team. Now you're ready to go. All right, anything you need from me, or are you guys good to go? Floor is yours then.
Okay, can you go to the second slide, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so our first question was, why is art important? Next slide, please. And this quote right here really explains how one of the big purposes of art, which is to cause a feeling within the artist and the viewer. Next slide, please. And I think a person who does this well is Marina Abramovich, who was a performer, and she did performances which both expressed her own emotions and allowed her viewers to engage and interpret it for themselves. And one of her more famous pieces was Rhythm Zero, where she stood for 6 hours and allowed her audience to do whatever they wished with a variety of items. And through this performance, she felt a bunch of mixed emotions, from people putting flowers into her hair or even cutting her clothes and holding a knife up to her throat. And this was a social experiment that revealed how, if given the chance, what people would do and the desires that they feel. Another piece of hers was the Great Wall Walk. And this was a breakup piece with her then boyfriend, where they each stood on opposite sides and met at the middle of the Great Wall of China. And this symbolized the emotions they felt through this relationship and the paths they both took and got where they were at that time. So I think these two pieces really showed how she was able to release feelings through her art and allow others to do the same. Next slide, please.
All right. So one thing that, other than expression of a person and their feelings, art can also serve purposes like recording history or other socioeconomic purposes, as well as like how other people perceive you. There's a lot of cases where the upper class will leverage art and use it for things like money laundering. There's lots of works of art where it's not really clear why it's sold or traded in the way that it is, such as a banana taped to a wall. I'm not saying that that was used for money laundering, but things in the past have been used for money laundering and other scandals such as that. Art can also be used to kind of portray how the time period may have been, maybe record history, like that painting by Georges Seurat. That was how he interpreted life at that point, like for the bourgeoisie type class. And there's also representation of who you want to be around and who would want to be around you through things like art on your body, like makeup or what you wear, or just how you generally present yourself, how you style your hair. It determines who you talk to, who talks to you, and in turn it also leads to communication of art further as well as other things. It can also give impressions of yourself to, say, an employer or someone that you're looking to impress. And yeah, next slide.
The next question that we tackled was, how does the use of language enhance or inhibit the study of art? You could go ahead to the next slide. And I specifically focused on language and opera. So if in a second, we're going to listen to the first video, and I want you to notice how, even though you have no idea what she's not saying any words, you kind of have a general idea of what's going on. So if you could go ahead and play that, Mr. Hudson.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully everyone will be able to hear it.
So not only is there a lovely vocal performance there, you can really tell that the lady that was singing is clearly angry at the girl in the white. And, you know, even though she's saying nonsense words, you get a feeling of what's going on. You don't need the language to understand. Now, in the second clip, there are subtitles underneath it, so you can kind of tell what they're saying, but I want you to notice how you still don't really know what's going on any more than the other one where there was language. So if you could play the second one, that would be lovely. So clearly that's a wedding, and about the only information that you get from the words is that one of them is a gypsy, or if there's gypsies going on. So here I bring a couple of questions. I would love to know what you guys think of, does the art of opera come from the words or the music? Can you have an opera without the words? Because the story does come from words. It's told mostly through music, but without the words, you don't really have an opera. So is opera without a libretto? And do you think you would get more enjoyment or understanding from watching an opera in your native language? And that's the end of my slide.
The last question that we decided to tackle is, based on the past, what do we predict for the future of the progress of the arts? Go to the next slide.
This one was mine. So what is the future of art? We said that art will change based off of its era because like the time period of a person is one of like the biggest inspirations of art. There might also be a bigger variety of what we can consider art, like how dance, music, painting, and photography are a few of the first things people usually think about when considering art. There's a lot that goes into it, and the arts also coexist with each other, like how music can be incorporated into dance, and some artists paint dancers, for example, like the ballerina in that corner, the top right corner, or they can sometimes paint musicians. We also asked, will the arts repeat itself? We said that the art could go back to its roots and become more classic, or it could form new techniques in modern art. The same could be said for music. There could be different kinds of tonguing for wind instruments or different bowing styles for string instruments. And who knows, there might even be a new instrument in the future. And with photography, there can be like new lightings or different styles of taking pictures. And over time, there have even been new and improved cameras as well. We also talked about the possibility of becoming more interactive in the arts, like how people can be a part of it or they can just move it around to form another picture. But one of the biggest things in the future of art is going to be in technology.
Move to another slide for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about specifically how the different softwares that we have already that are digital and can in some ways make art. For example, with like iMovie, you can make videos of some sort. In Hulu and Netflix, there's actual shows that you can watch, which in a lot of ways is art. In GarageBand, you could make like music to an extent, and all these are like digital forms of how art of just art in general. And considering that these things already exist now compared to like centuries ago when technology was like digital technology was non-existent, we can see how art is already started making a change into being more interconnected with technology. So we predicted that as time goes further on into the future, art will become more and more interconnected with technology, and one of the specific predictions would be possibly art just becomes like just digital entirely. So.
Looks like that might be it for you guys. Is that the end? All right, let's give Team Duchamp a silent round of applause. Thank you guys, do appreciate you. Well done. All right, and that is going to take us to.
Was that Angelo or was that Duchamp?
Sorry, you're right. That was Angelo, wasn't it? My bad. Thank you, Phoenix. I even wrote it down wrong on my rubric, so I'm glad we caught that. Thank you. That will take us to Team Wei Wei. And I will find in my 1,000 tabs here the presentation. Oops, I gotta click on the download button. There we go. All right.
Oh, I think you're missing a slide. Perhaps, never mind. I'm sure it's fine.
Well, do you want to just share? You just want to share it with me real quick?
I actually think I already did share it with you.
Oh, did you? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look at my Google Drive. Yep, there it is. There you go, team. Let me know.
Okay. So presentation. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Our first question that we asked was, what was the importance of the arts? In my opinion, the importance of the arts can be broken down into like two parts: the importance to the arts, to the creator, and to the audience. For the creator, which could include like an author, a singer, director, dancer, whatever form of expression you have, they can be creative. Creativity can give you a sense of purpose, lead to feelings of pride and accomplishment. It can also be relaxing and even therapeutic for some artists. It also simply just leads to like free human expression, which can be different based on what culture you're in, and that can be expressed through like hundreds of different methods, which I think is a good way to sum up creativity and human expression. The counterpart to that is the audience. They observe, they're left to interpret the work of what the artists create. And every interpretation, although there can be a consensus on it, is completely personal and unique because we're all different and unique people. Another great thing to by observing things and interpreting, or aside from interpreting, observing things, is being inspired by the artwork people can create. This could lead to more expression or even artworks being created similar to that, or it could influence people's lives. It could uplift them. It could make them feel a certain way or have certain ideas. Go to the next slide, please. And I feel like this quote by Chris Derube, all art should inspire and evoke emotion. Art should be something that you can actually feel. I feel like that's a really good way to sum up what an artist should aim to do for their audience and what an audience should perhaps feel about art. And those are some of his paintings. Yeah. We can move on to the next slide.
So the first thing our group did when addressing the problem, what problems arise in the production of the knowledge in arts, is we came up with the manipulation of knowledge in arts as the first problem we saw. And an obvious example of this is propaganda, and even more specifically, a good example of propaganda is Macbeth. Now, this is because we don't generally think of Macbeth as propaganda, but it really is. It changed the perception of King James I among the masses in England. Now, in the novel, Macbeth is an heirless ruler who is ambitious and is defeated by Banquo. Now, Macbeth is compared to Queen Elizabeth, who died as a heirless ruler and was considered ambitious by many because of her status as a female holding the throne. Now, Banquo is who King James I traced his lineage to, and by making this piece, Shakespeare not only appeased King James I, but also changed the opinion of the masses in England to support King James I, even though the opinion among the aristocrats in England was that Queen Elizabeth was who they wanted to support, and King James I was an intruder.
So some other problems that arise in the production of knowledge in the arts are also ethical dilemmas that may be created through a lack of ethics used in creation of the art. So this piece here is called Las Corbatas, and it is a piece made of stolen memorial crosses from Mexico. So the artist took these crosses that are used to memorialize a loved one where they died, and he used them to create his artwork that he put in the bathroom of an exhibit. And so it brings up ethical questions because there was a lack of ethics involved in the creation of the art. So what knowledge can it produce? And so James Mercer said, "I have no ethics when it comes to art. You just do what you can to make it as beautiful as possible." So it can arise the question, should ethics hold a place in the production of knowledge, or should art be seen as outside the realm of morals? And this idea somewhat continues in the evolution of art and how it can change meaning as society changes or as new ideas become popularized. An example of this would be the swastika, where at one point it represented Hindu spirituality, and it was later corrupted by Hitler to make it a symbol of evil. And so this shows a larger problem where art can change meaning and it can become negative. And that's, it's sad for the original artist who never intended it to become that way, but it also brings up the question, should we get rid of artwork because it becomes negative, or should it still be kept and its original meaning be remembered? And then next slide.
So another one of the questions we had were, what was some key moments in the development of arts? One of them was humanism, which I believe was previously mentioned. There was a transition from sort of religious art and like religious ideals in art to an appreciation of the human body, which was sort of not a thing before. It introduced the idea that the human body was beautiful and should not be scorned, which is an idea seen in modern art, where artists, whether it be visual art or music or anything else, display and praise the human body. Another one of the developments in art is Vanishing Point, which introduced perspective and changed the style of art. And rather than painting still life or humans' faces or anything, you could depict depth, perspective, and scenery. Figurative language allowed writers to deepen the meaning behind what they were writing and allowed the reader to better understand what was going on. It allowed the writer to help set a tone and a mood for what was being written and helped express the writer, or helped express what the writer wants people to feel. Different time periods in music allowed for like different sounds and just different themes of stories and messages. Many musical pieces from different musical eras sound similar, but have their own stories and unique sounds. And earlier musical periods inspired more modern music, as we can see many similarities between periods of some modern music, even has melodies directly like taken from older musical periods. Next slide.
Wait, hon. That's do you mind like reloading it, because I think
Yeah.
there are like a couple other pictures.
Oh yeah, you're right. God, that's weird. I wonder if oh, they're there. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the future of art. So just like this like display of images here, where it's a collage of art, the future of art is basically a collage of art, or a collage in general, because there's the future of art is basically a mashing together of all these different ideas as a culmination of everything. So on the left, like the bottom, we have a example of cubism. On the top, we have a blank canvas. On the bottom in the middle, we have a splatter painting. And on the right, we have a satirical image or like from Banksy, who is a graffiti artist known throughout the world. And the importance of all these images is how different they are, because Cubism is something that has different shapes and all that, but it still conveys a message. The blank canvas may not have anything intricate on it, but it's still conveying a message for the artist that made it. The splatter painting, I personally don't think it has anything unique to convey, but the artists that made it, they think it has something unique to convey. And then the satirical image by Banksy, it has something unique to convey. So the future of art, it's going to be very unique in all the ways that it can split, because as art develops, the more techniques that will come along with it. So what that means is that there's just going to be more ways of expressing oneself.
Looks like that. Is that the end? All right, awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Team Weiwei. Outstanding. All right, well, that's great. And that's pretty good timing. We have just a couple minutes left of our time together today. So, okay, cool. So that looks like we have then good and good and good. So we'll have one last team to go on Friday, and then we will be able to have some additional conversations. In Canvas, if you don't mind heading over there real quick, if you're not there already, I am going to, if I haven't already, I'm going to do it now, publish something. Let's take a look. Modules. Yeah, okay, cool. So I'll publish this right now. I'm going to ask you to watch a few videos. They're not very long. Each one I think is maybe, they vary from maybe 10, maybe 5 minutes to maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And I would like you just to pick a couple of these videos here to watch. You don't need to watch all 4, but if you just pick, I mean, you can watch all 4 if you want to, but if you could pick 2 of them to watch before we come back on Friday, we'll talk about the sort of the points that these various videos are making. And so I'd ask you while you watch them, just, to jot down your thoughts in your reflection journal, interesting questions that they ask, conversations that they provoke inside you, examples that you would like to discuss further. And then after we have our last presentation on Friday, we'll take some time to think about and process what these videos are trying to teach us. Any questions about that assignment? Okay, great. All right, well, I appreciate all the teams that went today. Great work. I will be holding off on giving all the teams their feedback until we have all the teams present. So probably at the end of the day on Friday I'm probably not gonna be able to get everything written up and graded by then. So in terms of your grade for the 9 weeks, we'll maybe just have this participation assignment of the review sheets that you guys can turn in that I can put in the grade book very quickly. But other than that, if you want to go back and take a look at any of the assignments that you missed or missed points on, please feel free to do that. I'll hang out. The bell's getting ready to ring here in just 2 or 3 minutes, but I'll hang out in the main room here. If anybody has any questions they want to talk about, feel free to linger and do that. Otherwise, have a wonderful day. It was great to see you all.
It says the assignment's locked.
Is it?
Yes.
Try refreshing your browser. See if that remedies the issue. Did that fix it, Lee? Oh, well, she's gone.
No. Oh, it's me, Halsey.
Oh, that was you? Oh, sorry, that was
Yeah.
Lee. Did it fix the issue?
No, it's still locked.
Okay, let me try this. Sometimes I have to publish it and then republish it again. Okay, try now.